Sometimes you realise there's a lot more than footy.
They will be some of the most lasting images of season 2019 when footy clubs give us that little insight into it. It's more than just the game to game. Brad Scott, welcome.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks, Robbo.
They were beautiful scenes, weren't they?
Oh, fantastic, yeah. It's great moments like that when you realise that it's more than just a game.
And Ken Hinkley joins us from Adelaide. Kenny, welcome.
Evening, boys.
Take us, if you would, to the art of coaching at the quarter-time huddle. What have you got in mind? What do you need to do? What do you need to vent? What do you need as a reaction?
I think you're right. I think part of it's to vent yourself, because we've been into a start of a big game on a Friday night game, and we're at we understand the quality of the opposition we're up against, and we just let ourselves down really poorly in the contest. And I think that was the key message that I had for Ollie as the captain of the team, was that our contest was just at a level that was way below what we expect of ourselves and what we need to deliver if we're going to compete against the high quality teams in the competition.
So how calculated is it, and how much do you want it to sting?
Yeah, well, it's calculated, and it's certainly you're looking for a result, and so you need a little bit of a sting with that, because the pride of the players that are out there in every team. You know that you can call on that every now and then. It's not an everyday game play that you can go with, but for me, it was a moment where I thought, this is one that the boys need to understand the urgency of what we're trying to achieve here. And Collingwood, to their credit, were all over us in the first quarter, but I'm not sure that they were that much better than us as a football club before we started the evening, and we allowed them to look that much better.
It must be really frustrating, Kenny, because the second quarter was something of what we've seen from Port Adelaide this year, and kick 5 goals and really take the game on, and then to sort of fall apart again after half time. Did you leave what level of frustration from 1 to 10?
Pretty high, Robbo. We didn't have a great night, as you said, up bar the second quarter. Collingwood probably had opportunities to put a bigger gap on us than they actually did by the end of the night. But I was pleased enough that we stuck at it for a bit, and we didn't have a great night. A lot of players, had uncharacteristically poor games for them. So we learn and live with that. We've been on the other end of that at times, and you know how tough it can be. And sometimes it's hard to fight your way back. At least we showed something to fight our way back. But by the end, we got beat very badly by a good side.
When do you choose your moments to go, Brad?
I think there's two things. There's choosing your moment to go, and there's choosing your target, if you will. It's your captain quite often, or it's your experienced players that you go to, or players that that you can get a response from. Because it can have a detrimental effect too. You go at the wrong player, they can lose a bit of self-belief and a bit of confidence. So that's where it comes down to knowing your players really well.
Heightened energy, that's what it looked like from the start. They seemed to be playing at a heightened energy that we hadn't seen this year. And I always wonder when a journo asks a coach, did you see it? Right? And you think, God, is that a silly question or it's not a silly question? Did you feel it during the week? Did you feel it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Media talking, about you and the club and radio. Did you feel it growing during the week or not?
Yeah, I think that's real. I think the pressure is real. I mean, what I always talk about consistently is that the pressure can get so great that it can take your attention away from where it needs to be. And that's the great challenge. But that's not to say that, it's all noise and it's all irrelevant. I think it's relevant because it does affect people. But I could see clearly during the week a steely resolve with our players. So I knew the attitude they were going to take going into the game, but that doesn't guarantee anything. You still got to execute.
Was there a moment during the week when you sat down and addressed the outside noise? No, not directly. But I did talk a lot about just focusing on what's really important. A bit of the terminology I use is, you've got to be, in professional sport, you've got to have an iron will. You've got to be really strong mentally, but you can't be tight physically. You've still got to execute your skills. You've still got to play with freedom, even though the pressure's great, because if you let the pressure get to you, you tighten up physically. And it doesn't matter how tough you are mentally. If you tighten up physically, it's going to be really hard to execute skill. So they come out with really good energy. You could see it, you could feel it. But the aspects of the game that really pleased you, what stood out to me was if there was a free ball or a ground ball, it was 3-on-1 or 4-on-2. And it was like, wow, where is Carlton? And where is the mindset of the Kangaroos? It was just on edge. It was just brilliant to watch.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is that it's both teams are probably trying to do the same thing, you know, in terms of effort in the contest and effort to get over to the contest. And we were comprehensively outplayed by Port Adelaide the week before in that area of the game. So, you know, we coached it really strongly. We focused on it, and it is a satisfying element of the game when you really work hard on something at training and you get a response in the game.
So a couple of scenarios here. One immediately after the game. So you wanted to talk to the players before they sang the song. What was your methodology?
Well, there's probably two things in that. I think the first thing was to get the players in and just to make sure that our reaction and our response showed that we were pleased with the outcome of the game, but we're far from satisfied with where we sit at the moment. And logistically, the other part of it was that once the players sing the song, they're open to the media. So I don't get a chance to direct the message and direct the response. So that was about 10 seconds in the room there, and I thought the players responded well.
When did you decide you were going to do that?
On the walk down from the box to the rooms.
So you didn't want celebration, as it were?
No, because I think when the heat's been on you, I think the reaction can be, it should be one of relief, but I just didn't want it to tip over to anything that it shouldn't be. And the reality is we sit 2 and 5. So we've got nothing to celebrate. We've still got plenty of hard work to do.
This is like the hard-ass player, and you're a hard-ass coach, I suppose, but was there pressure? You said there was pressure. Was it real and strong pressure? It wasn't just another week, surely.
This is the funny thing. The pressure's real. There's no doubt the pressure's real, but you get to choose your response to it. There's no pretending it's not there. But we worked really hard on the response that we would choose. And I have a philosophy of work extremely hard, maintain your honesty, and at all times maintain your integrity, and the cards fall where they fall.
Was there one player, and I don't want you to choose one player having a greater impact than another, but was there one player you felt was copping it a bit, maybe even internally, about performance that really stood up on the weekend?
No, and again, I said the external pressure is real, but that doesn't mean that the focus is directed towards that. So some of our players have been criticised from various outlets, but I really work hard to keep them focused on what we think is really important. And sometimes the external criticism is correct, and that's fine, but sometimes we don't believe it's correct, so we direct the attention of the players to where we think it's warranted. And look, I'm not going to go into the players who were supposedly under pressure, but I mean, our senior players stood up and our young players came to the fore.
You just mentioned two words to Kenny, the art of coaching. And there's the art of coaching, I would imagine, what's real, what's not, how to disregard. Kenny, after your performance on the weekend, a different art of coaching, separating the criticism, the real criticism from some waffle. Is that an easy job or a tough job?
Oh no, I think it's a reasonably easy job for us because we're day to day, hour to hour, almost every day of the week for us. So we understand exactly where we're at, and I think really importantly for us, we don't get ahead of ourselves. We don't get too far drawn back in the negative either. So we just got to stay really balanced, and I think that's the real art of coaching, is staying balanced when it is going against you, and also equally as much when it's going for you.
Just one other moment from yesterday, the Liam Jones injury, which was frightening for everybody in the stadium. I'm sure it was at every level. And what you observed in those minutes?
Yeah, it was a sickening clash, and I think everyone knew instantly that Liam was in a fair bit of trouble. But I was sitting right above this in the coach's box, and to see every North Melbourne fan on their feet, applauding an opposition player, and right in the middle of a feisty battle, I was really proud of our supporter base. I thought it was really touching. It was right in front of our cheer squad, and they were really supportive. And in the game at the moment, you've got booing and those sorts of things coming to the fore. I think it's pertinent to celebrate those moments when the fans really do get behind an opposition player like that.
Great point.
Kenny, you would have gone and watched the Crows and the Dockers yesterday. Because it was such a peculiar game, can you get much out of it?
Yeah, well, it's a little challenging because you go and think that both sides are perhaps playing a little bit more attacking football than was on display yesterday. But you know, you could understand what they were trying to do. They're both desperate for a win, and you know, they both sides were pretty full in through the midfield part of the ground, and they were leaving sort of the number behind at both ends. So it made it a real challenge, and it made, as it was seen, it was a game between the arcs and never went much further than that for a lot of the game. So it wasn't too much to be gained from that, but we've got a great understanding of Adelaide, which are our upcoming opponents, obviously, because we're in the same town, we see them regularly.
So we know the emotion that can overtake a man in a showdown, Kenny. Just put us inside the week in your town.
Yeah, it can get you, can't it? And we've had our moments, but look, it's as big as it gets. It's a rivalry that's real. You know, both teams don't have a great like for each other. We want to beat each other. We respect each other, but we certainly go out there to try and beat each other. And you know, the town, the city pumps it up as the biggest games of the year. It's amazing football games usually is what comes out of them. And you know, and I think all of Australia get an opportunity to see it. And for us, we look forward to the challenge against the enemy come Saturday evening.
Interesting is another game, Kenny. All of us are looking at it. It's 6v7. You're both on 16 points. It's a huge game for yourselves and being the showdown, but the result's massive.
Yeah, absolutely it is, Robbo. It's a big game. There's no doubt about that. You know, at this time of the year, you can start to get a little bit of a gap on parts of the competition, and you know, to stay 5-3, if we can get to that point come Saturday night, that will put us in a really good position after a really testing first part of the season. And you know, and I'm sure Adelaide are thinking the same way as we are.